Hi, it's David Wilkins again from Minnesota Asala, continuing with you in the study of US government. In our last video, we examined the attack on the Capitol, January 6th, President Trump claiming to have won the 2020 election and urging his supporters who amassed at the Capitol in Washington to do something about it. They then proceeded, as you recall, to attack the Capitol, looking for congressmen, looking for the vice president, and as a result, 5 people died. So that was a horrendous event, and we examined that. There is an ongoing attack on our democracy that I wanted to address in this short video. It happens to deal with voting and voting rights. This is an old story, almost as old as our democracy, as we've learned in this class. After the Civil War, Black men gained the right to vote. And then certainly shortly thereafter, after the Reconstruction era and a reign of terror that lasted almost a century, they lost that right to vote. It was regained in the hard-fought battles of the Civil Rights era with the passage of the the Voting Rights Act bill. And again, this has been a contentious issue, again, from the beginning, and it continues to be. After the January 6th attack, we have seen more than 200 bills being entered into the legislatures of more than 43 states, sponsored by Republicans, seeking to suppress the rights to vote based on alleged need for election integrity. Remember, there was no evidence of any fraud in this past election. Indeed, Republican officials across the country have testified, have certified that this was the most safe and secure election we have ever had. Nevertheless, you have these actions being taken by Republican legislators in the states to suppress votes. And so I'm going to examine the issue of the filibuster today. We're going to see a short video. It's not one of the humorous Hip Hughes videos, but it nevertheless tells the story in more detail than I can. But what we're focused on, and I want us to not lose sight of the fact that this is as great a threat to our democracy as that one-day event in January 6th was also a great threat and an attack on our democracy. So let's take a look at this video, and I'll come back and share with you why I think this is an issue that you'll need to watch closely over the next few weeks.
These 100 people are the US Senate. They pass laws. They vote, and when a majority says yes, it passes. But these days, the Senate doesn't do that very often.
The Senate holding 2 votes, both failed.
It's completely dysfunctional.
4 versions of gun control proposals, and all 4 failed.
See, the Senate has this rule. It says before they vote, 60 people have to agree to have the vote. That means just 41 people, a minority, can entirely block a bill. This is called a filibuster. Early on, filibusters were rare. This is a chart of the number of times the Senate has had a vote to break a filibuster in the last 100 years. But in the last 50 years, they started to grow. And now, almost every big bill is filibustered. The US Senate is broken, and the filibuster broke it. But the Senate didn't always have this rule. In fact, it all kind of happened by accident. This is the Senate in 1805. It's much smaller than it is now, and the filibuster as we know it today doesn't exist yet. And before they vote on a bill, they debate. If they want to end debate and vote, they just need a majority to agree. But Vice President Aaron Burr thinks a high-minded place like the Senate should have as much debate as needed. So the Senate gets rid of the rule. Now senators can debate for as long as they want, and there's no way to stop them. This is the beginning of the Senate filibuster. At first, it isn't really a problem. Because the Senate is still pretty small, there's only so long a group of senators can physically talk. Eventually, they tire out, debate ends, and they get to a vote. But as the US grows, so does the Senate, and they have more factions and more people to filibuster bills. They move to a bigger room, and now it's 1917. World War I is underway, but the US isn't involved. Then President Woodrow Wilson asks Congress to authorize a broad military action. A group of senators don't want to give Wilson the power to enter the war, so they decide to debate until the session ends, filibuster. Woodrow Wilson is mad, and he demands that they go back to the old Senate rules. The debate can be ended with a simple majority. The Senate doesn't want to do that, so instead they compromise. They change the rules so they can end debate with the approval of 2/3 of the Senate, so that if senators want to block a bill, they need a third to do it. This is basically the system we have today. A supermajority to agree to vote, and a simple majority to pass a law. And for a few decades, the filibuster is used, but pretty sparingly. Then in the 1950s, the Senate starts to consider civil rights legislation, and Southern senators really hate this. But they don't have the votes to actually defeat the bills, so they start using the filibuster to block bills. Here's South Carolina Senator Strom Thurmond. He looks tired because he just filibustered the 1957 Civil Rights Act for more than 24 hours. These filibusters are painstaking, and they block the Senate from actually doing work. The majority leader at the time, Mike Mansfield, doesn't like this. He's okay with needing a supermajority to pass things. What he doesn't like are these long, pointless speeches. So he makes a change. He skips the debate and goes directly to a vote to see if there's a supermajority to end debate. This means if senators want to filibuster, they don't have to stand up and talk. They can just threaten to, as long as they have the numbers to block a supermajority vote. This makes it way easier to filibuster. And the number of filibusters grows. In the mid-70s, the Senate changes the threshold needed to filibuster. Now instead of 34 senators, you need 41, but it doesn't make much of a difference. And then around the 2000s, senators in the minority start to realize something. They can gain more politically by fighting than by cooperating. So they filibuster everything the other party wants to do. That's what leads to this spike. Now, almost every big bill is filibustered. Finally, in 2013, the Democratic majority makes a change to the rules that says the filibuster no longer applies to certain confirmation votes. In 2017, the Republican majority makes another similar change. Both times, it feels like a huge deal. But now, things are beginning to change. The 2020 elections are coming up, and Democrats have some big proposals.
Healthcare in America.
Federal investment in teacher salaries.
Investments in clean energy.
But Democrats know even if they have a majority in the Senate, they're not going to get the 60 votes needed to overcome a filibuster. And that's why a new idea is now on the table.
Would you urge the Senate Democratic leader to get rid of the filibuster?
I think we have to have that on the table.
To get rid of the filibuster.
Get rid of the filibuster.
Getting rid of an old tradition naturally feels radical. But here's one more story about the filibuster. The Senate is only one half of Congress. The other half, the House of Representatives, also used to have rules that allow the minority party to filibuster bills. Then, in 1888, Republicans won control of the House, but the filibuster rules kept them from actually passing anything. It was like the election, and ultimately the will of the people didn't even matter. So, they got rid of it. And the reasoning was pretty simple. If the party that loses an election can block the winners from doing anything, what does it mean to be a democracy?
All right, let me get back to our presentation here, and we'll conclude. So what does it mean to be a democracy? That's indeed a great question. And you're going to hear a lot more about this filibuster issue over the next few weeks, because the Democrats are going to push an aggressive agenda, and they need to do so to protect voting rights again, which is why I'm sharing this short video with you. when you hear filibuster, you hear the debate, remember a couple of important things. It is not a constitutional issue. This was not a part of the Constitution. This was a device that was essentially entered into with the belief that debate would be healthy, debate would be a good thing, and it's been abused over this long period of time. It's a tactic to block legislation. Wasn't used often, and it has been used, as the video shows, a great deal more in the 20th century. And it's been most effectively and often used by white supremacist, segregationist governors, senators from the South, trying to block civil rights legislation. And so both sides have used it, the Republicans, the Democrats, and they continue to do it. As the Vox video shows, the minority has realized that they can get more done by stifling the agenda of the party in the majority. So today it is coming to a head because the Biden administration does have a majority with a 50-50 split, and Vice President Harris being the tiebreaker, and Joe Biden's determined to get some things done. Voting rights is next up on the agenda, and we've said that there are aggressive actions underway. Yesterday in Georgia, the legislature passed a sweeping bill that will suppress votes, and you're not surprised to know that it will suppress more votes in the large cities like Atlanta, where there's a large population of color. So this again goes back to our history of trying to stop or suppress the votes of Black and brown people. Will the Democrats use their majority power to put forward an aggressive protection of voting rights? Will we have a democracy if they do not? Because it's quite clear that the Republicans have made the determination that the more people who vote, the less likely they are to win. And it seems to all of us, objectively, they are prepared to sacrifice our democracy to maintain power. So that's what's at issue. When you hear this issue of the filibuster, remember this discussion and raise these questions about, are we truly going to continue being a democracy? Are we going to support the Constitution, support the almost 3 centuries of the democratic governance in the US, or are we going to allow a minority party to use a device to thwart the right to vote, which is essential to our system of government? Thank you very much. We'll be back with another video soon.